The King Price Derby Series is underway and SuperSport Schools has a new partnership with Old School. Brought to you by Thirsty, this is Rugby on 216. Hello and welcome to another week of Rugby on 216. I'm Alex White and joined as always by Sput and Coach Cooks. Guys, welcome back to another episode and another week.
Hello, Alex. How long before you drop Bosch into this conversation? Just want to make sure.
Why would you think that was even going to come up? I think we should address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We're wearing Old School jerseys, and that is because Old School and SuperSport Schools have a new partnership where schools across the country are getting fantastic supporters jerseys, and this is open to all schools. They just need to let Old School know, and you can buy these jerseys on Takealot and on Old School. So let's just talk for a couple minutes. Sput, you're wearing an Uffies jersey for this entire show. Are you going to be allowed back to them?
Didn't Sput go to Greg College? I just want to make sure. I get confused.
So yeah,
Aren't they like rivals?
I fell into the trap, so I'll take this one on the chin. The Great College one will be ready soon. I found that out on an email last week. So, I'm dressed in the Uffies jersey. They had a good win over Alkmaar, a win over Diamantfeld as well. Great College, we used to winning. So, I'll wear this with pride. I've got good mates at Uffies. So.
Okay, good answer. And then Cooks in Kes.
I got the Cares one, the Western High School. Now I need to contact the guys at my old high school to get these jerseys ready to contact Old School. So I figured I'll go with Cares this time because I told you that whenever I go to these big derbies, like the rivalries with this Queen Selborne or Cares JP, the home side always loses. So I feel like with us going to Cares this weekend, I got the Cares jersey on. I'm bringing good luck, some good juju.
Okay.
I think red's my colour, actually.
Yes, I think it
brings out your eyes.
Yeah, I think red's my colour.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, Sput, that the grey one is coming, and obviously schools can get their own jerseys into the system. They earn a little bit of a royalty from it. They can sell it in their school shops, and all they need to do is contact Old School to get that sorted. But how do they feel? Nice.
Very nice. In fact, no, I'm very surprised. I was looking forward to it. And, it's always nice to get a little gift. But it's very nice. It's comfortable. Large, maybe in a couple of weeks, extra large, I don't know. Maybe this will force me back into the gym.
Yeah, or a few booty rolls is a good term. I think it feels good. I was saying that when I put it on, I was like, it felt like, excuse the pun, those old school jerseys you have in primary school, long sleeve with the cotton neck. Maybe there's a comeback of the cards, but
When you say old school jerseys for primary school, you're meaning for you?
When I was in primary school,
you were in primary school yesterday. So the thing about it is, if you say you feel like a comeback, I mean, I might consider a comeback. It won't be at fly-off. I think those days are long gone for me.
I discovered just saying that I was in primary school just last year. Our one, Rondebosch's one, has our supporters club on. It's 2003 here, which is as old as me. So.
And the number 24 though?
Player 24. That
was player 23.
Even on the back, I mean,
that was player 23.
But now the squads have changed.
All right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, and you're wearing an Uffies one.
I just saw the 24 meant. I think the Grand Slam last year, so they made special. That's what I first assumed.
Can have more than one.
That would be. That's a nicer story to tell though.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Grand Slam year 24.
Did you know Bosch did the Grand Slam last year? I mean, it's the first thing you hear. On the Bosch website. It's the first thing you see. Even in the Instagram bio as well. It's like the day the school was founded, and by the way, Grand Slam in 2024.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun with these jerseys, and in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a leaderboard, rank the different schools, who's selling the most jerseys. But here's a quick video from Old School to let you in on all the exciting stuff coming up this season and this new partnership between SuperSport schools and Old School.
Some things you don't choose. They choose you. A name, a history, a legacy that came long before you and will last long after you're gone. It's not just about the game. It's the moments that shape you. The early mornings, the long bus rides, the chants that never fade. The friendships, the rivalries, the feeling of being part of something bigger. It's a belonging. Something you carry with you wherever you go. Because once you're a part of it, you always will be.
It's an awesome partnership between SuperSport schools and Old School that has just begun. You can get your school into the system. Just reach out to Old School, and you can also buy those jerseys for schools that are already on the system on Take-A-Lot and at Old School's website as well. Sport Cooks, time to talk about the weekend, starting with our King Price Derby Series. And we've spoken about it. The King Price Derby Series is so amazing because there are simply so many derbies on it, and they've tried to really put in and pack in as many as they could. So let's start with Paarlgem-Stellenbosch down in the Western Cape, 39-17 to Paarlgem.
Yeah, but it was a lot closer than that score suggests. If I'm not mistaken, they were 17 apiece.
17 all at the stage, yeah.
So, look, Paarlgem, you would always expect them at home to get the W against Stellenbosch, but Stellenbosch is a side full of grade 11s, like we mentioned. So it's a very encouraging start, according to me, for them. Yes, that experience factor might have counted against them. I think at 17 all, they were almost like, oh my word, what's happening? you know, we hear.
Both shocked.
It's like, and then you sort of unsure what to do next. And then the class of Paarlgem, shone through a king of the match performance by their tight head prop, Adrian van der Lingen. That you don't see often, the big tighties. In fact, 2 of the 3 matches was tight 5 forwards getting the king of the match. So that's a bit of a turn up for the books.
But you mentioned, last week you mentioned that Stellenbosch, I think majority of the pack is in grade 11, and I know they conceded a more try, they struggled their scrum time, hence the title winning player of the match. But I think Stellenbosch can definitely be encouraged because, they were down early and then they managed to get it back to 17. I think when people turned on about first 10 minutes, they go, oh, here we go, this could be a long day for Stellenbosch. But for them to get it down, to get it to 17 all, but even Paarlgem, you're quite pleased. I'm sure Peter Rousseau and the guys will be pleased because at the end of the day, you want to see that class come through, and it did, and they were able to close that game out.
The Paarlgem coaching staff and their whole structure is very methodical. So for them, it's a box tick.
Yeah.
First game out of the way, W at the Jaer Kriel. Look, the Jaer Kriel is a fortress. They don't often lose at the Jaer Kriel. That you must understand. Paarlgem is a class act. They perennial front runners, 1, 2, or 3 is almost reserved for Paarlgem. They're as good as it gets in South African schoolboy rugby, and a very encouraging start for them. They've got a seriously tough fixture list once again in 2025, like they have every year. They'll play Grey College, they'll play Uffies. They don't shy away from anyone, neither does Stellenbosch, for that matter. Showing that in playing him at the Jaer Kriel. So encouraging for both sides, even though one lost.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I definitely think with so many grade 11s representing Stellenbosch, and especially in the front there, that for next year, that's a great stepping stone. Both of you guys called Paarlgem to win last week, so far, 100% success rate for the season. Long may it last. Then, Sput, since you're wearing an Uffies jersey, Grey College played Oakdale and won 25-10, and I believe you were there as well. So
I was there.
Not dressed like this.
No, I was dressed more appropriately. No, let's get a fact out of the way. The Oakdale Landbou School pack of forwards is massive. And don't get me wrong when I say massive. Like Cooks plus, man for man. I was standing.
The tens are small either.
Yeah, I was standing next to Tian Liebenberg, former Springbok hooker, after the game, having a chat. And the Oakdale number 4, Ruan Swart, was standing 4 or 5 meters away from us. Cooks, he is a mountain of a man, not a boy. He's a man. Dion Augustine, the number 5 lock, is a grade 11 boy. He's as big, if not bigger. Then they've got Kai Pratt, as Lou said, who's enormous. A fantastic loose trio in Janus Snyman, Liam Lightly, and Jacobus de Villiers. This Oakdale team, with Ozzy Foster then at 12, Reinhold Viljoen at 15, Sheffer at 13, Vosloo at 10. This Oakdale team is going to topple guys this year. 25-10 in Bloom, you'll go, Grey College had a struggle. Yes, they did. And more teams are going to have a struggle. Grey College was trailing at halftime, 10-8. They turned it on in the second half. They scored 3 brilliant tries within the question of 12, 13 minutes, to sort of put the game behind Oakdale. But Bosch hosting Oakdale this weekend, good luck. Good luck.
At least it's at home at Rondebosch, and we don't have to travel to the farm.
And look, I'll be blunt. If Bosch was traveling to the farm, they had no chance. They would have get beaten at Oakdale, because that's what Oakdale do on the farm. It's a very tough place to visit. However, as is Bosch, it's not easy to go to Rondebosch and get a win. Oakdale, over the last 4 or 5 years, have become good travelers. But in the past, it was almost a story of, if we play Oakdale on the farm, it's going to be a struggle. If we play them at home, we'll be fine. They've become a lot better at traveling. That's not great news for Bosch. But at home, it's going to be so close, I think, that game. It's the classical story, the English school against the Landbou school,
I think it's going to be. But Saturday's game was so funny, because you probably say 8 minutes of the first half, it was all Oakdale. Had a massive chance just right before halftime, skew throw on a grade 5 meter line. If they score there, they got 12 points clear, it becomes a different game. And then second half starts, Grey turns it on. And it just shows, how the fine margins of the game like that, because Grey didn't score again after that initial period where they then sort of Oakdale tried to get back in that game. But it just shows, I think people will see that score and they go, 25-10. Routine down for Grey College. But
actually, no.
It could have been. We're watching the halftime period. We were watching cricket as well, but I sort of snuck in and watched it halftime. And you think to yourself, Grey, if Oakdale scores here, it's a mountain to climb, because that's a very, very good Oakdale side.
And the worst thing, and I spoke to Milan du Plessis afterwards, and he recognized the moment. That skew throw.
Oh.
And to make matters worse for Oakdale, they were mauling Grey College at that stage. They were ruling the roost at the lineouts, and they've got a very powerful maul. So that was 10-8 at halftime. It could have been 17-8.
Yes.
And had it been 17-8, could have been a very different story. But we spoke about the stars in the Oakdale side. I'll tell you who's maturing and becoming a fine rugby player, and not just a powerhouse, is the Tank Adams. He's matured into a baller. He makes the right decisions on attack. He makes brilliant decisions on defense. He made a turnover early in the second half in Grey College's 22. That sealed the deal, I'm telling you, because Oakdale was trailing 15-8 or 15-10. And they were surging, and he made that turnover. He's maturing into a fine rugby player. Another King of the Match award for a tight forward, Alexi Tyropoulos, the Grey College number 4 lock. So here's the story. Aya Meyer, when he recovers from injury, will come into that jersey. Tyropoulos is not going to make it easy. He wants to hang on to it.
Especially because when he King of the Match in the first...
So he's got a foot to stand on with the coaching staff. Complete performance in patches for Grey College, good enough to get a win against a very good side. So that also sends out a warning by them, saying, listen, we just beat one of the better Oakdale sides I've seen, 20-15, and maybe were still patchy.
Yes.
So, yeah, a bit of a warning.
I'm also glad you guys brought up that skew throw because we're going to talk about it later in our little law segment. There's some interesting points to get into there. But you both called Grey College to win that match. So the 100% streak continues, and now here's where it falls apart. I'm sorry, Cooks. DHS Maritzburg College, 29-13 to DHS. Sput, you called DHS. Cooks, you called Maritzburg College. It was the only one you were split on last week, so I can see Sput smiling.
Split smiling because, I mean, the college one is very interesting because, I mean, the new coaching staff, no one knew what to expect. And I thought, you know what, let me go for college. Let me go for tradition, the older powerhouse of KZN rugby. But I thought DHS again showed that they're going to be very, very hard to stop in KZN. I know North got a good win against Michael House, but I think now, if you're looking at any school in KZN, I think DHS is sort of the standard at the moment. And that's a good win against college. I mean, it's very convincing. So, yeah, I mean, for schools in KZN, I worry for them because DHS, they look good.
And they've looked good for a few years now under Peter Engeldo. He's a fantastic coach. Spent time at Paul Boiseye as well. Spent time in the pro structures, so he really knows what he's doing. And the interesting thing for me is it was a very tough and physical first half. Just a couple of minutes before halftime, the score was 6-3 in college's favour. So they did hang in there for a long period of time, but it's almost like the Grey College Oakdale game. Eventually that little bit of extra class and the little bit of killer instinct, can we call that?
Yeah.
Just coming to the fore. Zenkosi Mtiane with a king of the match performance, another outside centre playing good rugby. And the Suzuki game changer was big in that game because it was Marco Nero's try for DHS just before halftime. And, I refer to it in commentary often as the golden minutes. Those 3 minutes before halftime and after halftime.
Just after halftime.
Just ask Oakdale about them, because they conceded right after halftime. A minute into the second half, they conceded. College conceded just before halftime. And that breaks aside a lot of times because coach has already had his plan for that halftime talk. Both the DHS coach and the college coaches, they've got, I'm going to the after, oh no, must change my whole speed because we just conceded, So everything is different. Good win.
It's also a sign of a great side. If you look at the same pattern that DHS and Grey College had, they're really good sides, know when the right moment to score. Even if they may be down, you find that golden minute, you get a try. You come at halftime, you score another try. I think that's a key on what a good side is, especially look at DHS. Didn't panic at 6-3, stuck to their structures, got their try, and then so in the second half, once they gained control of that game, there was only going to be one winner there.
Lastly then, Sput, to come to the jersey that you are actually wearing in the match that did involve them. 48 for Affies against Heltmekar. Quite comfortable again, both of you called Affies.
Yeah, but statement.
Yeah.
Statement. We said they weren't brilliant against the Amantveld, so statement made. On the other hand, maybe to put their performance against the Amantveld into perspective, the Amantveld at home beat Wittenberg by 51 points to 21. So that the Amanveld's a proper rugby side. So maybe now, just a week later, we're sitting here and saying, maybe, we were harsh on Affies, questioning some of the, performances or some of the things they did against the Amantveld because it was their first game. We did mention that. So 40 points to 8, although it was at Affies, is a massive win over Heltmekar, who beat Michael House away the previous weekend. So Affies, they'll be up there.
I just thought for me, like, out of all the fixtures this weekend, I mean, you look at last week as well, we spoke about, the Paul Lewis's, the Paul boys, all the Grey College and how they're going to look. And I was like, don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. And to go there, and, I mean, for Heltmekar to get there and you get 40 points on them, it's massive. If Affies do that, 48, first probably big weekend of schoolboy rugby, and they're going, we're here, good luck.
No, for sure. Because remember, last year, that Affies side, we shouldn't forget about them because the last year's side lost to Paul Roos at Noordside, a game they should never have lost. They lost by 30 points to 25. They led Grey College 16-0 and lost. And then lost narrowly against, my mind's deserting now, but they had 3 very narrow losses last year. So we should never have forgotten about them, and they've made sure now we don't.
Well, we've spoken about your jersey now, but we've spoken about mine. We're going to talk about the Kes one a little bit later on when we build up to the fixtures coming up next week. And remember, we have a new partnership with Old School. Schools across the country can have their supporters' jerseys made by Old School, get a bit of a royalty for the school, sell it in the school shop, and have it available on Take-A-Lot and Old School. So just reach out to Old School if your school's not already on there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time to look ahead to the fixtures coming up this week.
Some things you don't choose. They choose you. A name, a history, a legacy that came long before you and will last long after you're gone. It's not just about the game. It's the moments that shape you. The early mornings, the long bus rides, the chants that never fade. The friendships, the rivalries, the feeling of being part of something bigger. It's a belonging, something you carry with you wherever you go. Because once you're a part of it, you always will be.
Honey, I think the courier guy's here.
Je komt mee boksen. Kiwis? Anne? Maar waar is die Anne? Wow, wow! Exemos, wow! Breng van mij die box. Okay, so.
The Courier Guy, the courier behind the box.
Can you deliver something for me?
Where to?
Hij wees van mij, hij wees van mij. Put this one in the Springs box.
Look at man. Hey, buena.
Welcome back to Rugby on 216, brought to you by Thirsty. And in studio here with Thirsty for more action with the King Price Derby series. And we don't have to wait that long because it starts on Friday. And I think just it's so close. I'm so excited.
Who does the right thing? Who does the right thing of the opening sequence?
It's all Alex. It's all Alex.
You want to just talk?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Maritzburg College, Northwood. That's happening on Friday at 3:30.
Northwood.
Yes, Sputt's just making his call.
I love the Northwood call. I'm also agreeing with Spurs Northwood. I mean, great win over Michael House on the weekend. Tight affair, 15-12. But yeah, I think for me, I'm going to lean towards Maritzburg College. They beat down last week. So I feel like now I have to go Northwood. You know, I must stick to my guns.
Okay. I was going to say, you're just a glory chaser, but no.
College again.
Northwood.
College again.
Northwood will win, and it'll be between them and DHS for top dogs in KZN this year.
Okay, right. So that's a sort of a big call there. But you're splitting again this week, so I'm glad we'll have something to talk about.
I'm 1-0 up, so I love splitting. I love splitting. So right.
I'm not so sure you'll split this one, though. Then at about 6:10 that evening, Great College, Monash.
Great College.
Yeah, it's hard to make past Great College after this weekend, but what a great way to start the long weekend. King Price Derby is on a Friday, and then we go into Saturday. That's a perfect way to sort of start the weekend.
Look, I'll tell you why I say Great College quickly. Remember, Monash is one of the sides traditionally with a great record against Great College. They've picked up 5 wins, but a lot of them was in the 90s, where Monash Rugby really hit a purple patch. There's legends coming from Monash. I mean, a man like Hans Kutsia, probably one of the most legendary schoolboy coaches ever. He was at Monash during that time, and it was very peachy and very rosy for them. They had 3 wins in a row against Great College. Not a lot of sides can say that. But, almost from 2000, it's been a struggle for Monash to get those victories. I think they might have picked up a couple in that time. in intense affairs. The last time Great College went to the Rus, they won by 25 points. It's going to be tight. It's an evening game. Coincidentally, the last time they played at night on the Rus van der Wyn, Great College lost against Paul Gymnasium. So that's something that Bobby Joubert and Yannick Geldenhuys knows. They know that, believe you me. But what I saw from Great College on Saturday is that iron resolve.
Yeah.
They were physically under the pump. They were outweighed, outmuscled in the tight exchanges. But the Great College character was there, and it was easy to see. And that's why, for me, it's an easier call. Having seen that, they'll have enough in the tank.
I think it's easy for me to agree with you guys on this one because the stats also back it up. 87-19, Great College won last time they played. And the last time Monash won was in 2015. So it's been 10 years. They won that one 17-7. So that was close. Last year, not so much. So I think we're quite confident then in Great College. I think it would be a big call. It would have to go up on our board if you said Monash. Then the big one for the weekend, which we will be at, and we will do our show next week from it, Kes Jeppe. It's the 90th year that they will play each other. They first played in 1935. It's the 96th encounter. They've played 2 a year for quite a lot of those years. Saturday, 3:30. Let's first talk about each of them and their performances this week because they both played games. Kes almost losing to St. John's.
Survived against St. John's. I mean, St. John's a very well-drilled side coached by Katlego Lynch, who was the old SA Schools and 18 coach. And, you know, it's fine enough with Kes. You could see that sort of first game jitters as well, sort of new combinations. I mean, you got someone like Andrew Jackson, they fly off having to step in the shoes, massive shoes to fall from Vusi Moyo. Are you okay, Sput?
I need some more.
You need
thirsty.
some
I need thirsty.
He's quite thirsty today.
Maybe Mrs. Vusi Moyo as well. But, you know, I just think the Kes side, you can see first game of the season, a bit of jitters, and I mean, a few things didn't go the way they wanted to. But again, what I did enjoy, I mean, they went up 17-8 at the end, and it felt like it was game over, but St. John's kept fighting back, kept finding a way to go through. Then at the end, there's a picture you would see of the Kes boys. It was like relief when the game ended, and then the poor St. John's boys on the floor distraught. But again, it's a box tick. And for Kes, I think going into this weekend, you want to go into Derby with the win behind you. So Saturday's going to be very interesting.
You're being kind, saying that's a box tick. I'm not sure it is. Yes, it's a victory. I think they're worried. I think after Saturday's performance, they'll be worried, which is not always the worst going into a big encounter because they would take stock. They would take stock this weekend because nowhere in the world did anybody expect them to be pushed that hard by a St. John's side. So, and no disrespect to St. John's, but I do feel there'll be more worry in the Kes camp currently than there'll be in the Jeppe camp. So does that work in Kes's favour maybe, like I'm saying, because they'll be more meticulous this week. They'll know what went wrong. You know, so you're right. This is so interesting, and it's so interesting for me because it's such a massive derby, and 6 or 7 years ago, I wasn't really in tune with the derby. You know, so for me, I can't wait to get there. It's going to be very, very special to be there. I think I'm on the other side of the fence here. I think Jeppe, with their win over Pretoria Boys High, and having pushed a side like Garsfontein, who we know has a very good side in 2025, all the way a week before, I think they'll have sort of the tail in the air going into that. Whether, once again, it's a good thing or not, I'm not so sure, because maybe they'll take their foot off the pedal this week. Drinkers Venter won't allow that. But yeah, I know where I'm going to put my money.
So Sput's going Jeppe. Cooks, you're wearing a Kes jersey.
No.
So I know you're going Kes, but we have to bring up a big call you made last week. You said Kes will win both Kes Jeppe derbies. And the reason this is such a big call, in 2023 and 2024, they both won one apiece, both times away from home. So no one has won at home for at least the last 2 years. And the last time Kes won both was in 2022, so it's not that long ago. But I mean, last year, they each won their respective games by 10 points. It's so close to call between these two. And you're saying that Kes at home this week will win, and then when they
I think
play
they'll win
again on the 31st of May, they'll win again.
That run has got to end. The funny thing about this derby last year is the side that was going into the game with the most form lost. So
Yeah.
There was such an interesting way of the derby where, I mean, we know the first game last year, it was JP coming off the Grey Cottage win a reunion, then Kez rose to the occasion and won that game. And then Kez was flying towards the end of the season, and people thought, you know what? Okay, cool, maybe Kez in the dub. And then JP stepped on, no, watch it. And then JP put in a quality performance. And I just think these sides of the orders evenly well matched. I mean, it's a classic derby, form goes out the window. But I just think Kez at home, I think they're going to want to finally win this derby at home in front of their fans. And I'm going with the boys in red.
You know what's the other tough thing for both these sides? Is the fact that this game is so early in the season. Because it's sort of season-defining stuff. A Kez JP derby. It's like a Boys Eye Gym game. But Boys Eye Gym is right at the end of the season. It's the last game of the season for them. So that becomes season-defining for them, and rightfully so, because after that, they're done. But there's so much emphasis into a Kez JP derby that you know how tough it must be them to play the next week.
And funny enough, they're so close together. I mean, one is the end of the first term, the second one is in the second term, where you normally occasionally be one in term 2, then they sort of meet close to the end of the season in term 3. So it's going to be very, very interesting couple of weeks in this derby.
It's going to be one of the first big calls we see the results of after Sput's call of Grey Cottage.
You'll have to have a red cross on that big call after this weekend. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so we'll either know this weekend or later on. And it's interesting, our first 2 calls both involve JP, but I can't wait for us to be there to see it. The vibe's going to be amazing. I know the old boys are going to come out in force. We have some Kez and JP old boys in the booth at the moment, and they've been going berserk in my ears. I'm just saying it's already starting. We're going to take a quick break now, though, and when we come back, I sit down with Lincoln Mali, who's part of the Lincoln Mali Leadership Foundation. In fact, he's the founder, to talk about the incredible work that the Zandile Mali tournament does for Eastern Cape Rugby.
In a world where every second counts, will he make it on time? Out here on the streets, anything can happen when the odds are stacked against you. One man finds the will, the drive, the passion to steer his path to destiny. It's a Swift.
Sure. You sure? Sure. Yeah, man, you sure?
Yes, I am sure. Look at this thing. It's presidential.
What if we get caught, man?
Nobody gets caught in South Africa, man.
That's true.
Now lift. I'm sure.
Don't just be sure. Be sure. King Price in sure. Insurance you can be sure about. Visit kingprice.co.za.
Honey, I think the career guy's here.
Je komt mee boksen. Kiwis? Anna? Maar waar is die Anna?
Hey! Ik kom niet boksen. Oef. Ik kom niet boksen.
Wow! Ek sê mos, wow! Bring vir my die boks. Okay, so.
The Courier Guy, the courier behind the box.
Can you deliver something for me?
Where to?
Hy wys vir my. Put this one in the Springs box.
Look at man. Hey, winner.
Welcome back to Rugby on 216. Now, there is a revolution of rugby in the Eastern Cape with the incredible Zandile Mali tournament. It's an amazing story that we want to share with you today. And to help me do that, I'm joined by Lincoln Mali of the Lincoln Mali Foundation that's responsible for putting on the Zandile Mali tournament. Lincoln, welcome to Rugby on 216.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to talk about township and village school rugby.
Yeah, I think it's a story that is so amazing, and it's coming off, I think, the legacy of your father, Zandile Mali. So talk to us a little bit about how the tournament came about, why the need was identified for this tournament, and where it all began.
I come from a very strong rugby family. Rugby in the townships in the Eastern Cape has been played for more than 130 years. My own father's club, the Orientals, were formed in 1894. So I grew up knowing this history, playing the game. But over the last 15 years or so, the rugby was dying in our schools. There was no rugby being played in schools in villages and schools in townships. And I thought, let me do something about it. So I started this rugby tournament with 8 schools. And today, we're talking about 54 schools.
Wow, it's amazing. That growth, to get schools involved from all across the Eastern Cape. Talk to us a little bit about the format. Those 54 schools that are involved are coming from towns across the Eastern Cape, and they all culminate in finals, which have just happened now.
Yeah, it's an amazing knockout system. So you got schools in Queenstown, Alresford, Beaufort, Keiskamma, Grahamstown, Alexandria, and Port Elizabeth, Gqeberha. And a lot of this is done by volunteers who also saw the need to revive school rugby. But more importantly, it's now been driven by the players themselves who've seen on SuperSport schools what happened. They've seen the tours and they're like, I want to be part of that. So schools have been competing and really it's been great competition.
And then they go to the one big finals weekend, which, like I said, has just happened. Tell us about the winners, because there's a very special story there coming from Zwide, which is obviously where Sia comes from, Sia Khaleesi, our captain, and they've won for the 5th year in a row.
Yeah, so last year the finals were between Zandile and Thobaletu from Fort Beaufort. And the finals again were between Zandile and Thobaletu. And Zandile won again, and they were winning this for the 5th time in a row. I mean, it's an incredible story because in many ways, the Zwide area has produced so many great players. And so that school continues to produce great players and they play amazing rugby. So great spectacle, full stadium at the Isaac Wilson Stadium. The community just came out in the township to support great rugby.
Wow, I'm literally goosebumps. And there's a reason I also want to talk about the school, because the tournament is a stepping stone. For a lot of these players, they're going to schools in the township, they're playing this great rugby, and then they can get picked up by schools that can help take them to the next level. And one such player last year who made it all the way to the SA Under-18 squad, starting in the Zandile Mali tournament, was Bato Tlekani. So talk to us a little bit about that system and picking up players.
Yeah, there are great players in these schools and amazing coaches. So Bato came out of that system of Zandile under Coach Xolani Grootboom, who's been coaching there for 10 years, and they've been able to produce that players, and so he was able to go to Graham College. There's another player they'll be announcing probably next week who's been identified from Zandile, who's made it to Graham College. So again, it enables these schools to be feeders, but also these schools to grow. So it's not them just producing players for other schools, but they are also doing well. And also other schools from primary and other schools from other areas, players say, I want to play for Zandile, I want to play for Thobaletu. So we want to encourage that. And a lot of this has been seen through players playing on SuperSport schools. It's also amazing that at Dale College Open Day, some of the schools that we've seen on our tournament were playing in the Open Day at Dale College. Thobaletu and Steve Chwete from Keiskamma were playing in the Dale College yesterday. So there's a sports revolution going on. Gray, PE has also invited some of the schools to go and play their third, sometimes their seconds. And so you start to see this integration of rugby from the grassroots and kids starting to compete with one another.
And you say it's a revolution in the Eastern Cape. And like you say, these schools playing against the slightly more established schools. And this is something that wouldn't have happened before the tournaments, and picking up players and talent, which we would have missed. Most of them would have fallen through the net, wouldn't have been picked up before. And I think it's obviously mainly and largely due to your tournament. And then you say also that these players are being seen on SuperSport schools. So it's an amazing tournament. And it doesn't just end when the tournament ends.
Yes.
Last year there was a Zandile Mali Select 15 chosen, and they toured England.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because that must have been such an amazing experience.
Again, there's an amazing thing. At the end of the World Cup in Japan, I wrote an article talking about the future of the Springbok and saying there's so much talent in townships and villages that is untapped.
Yeah.
A friend of mine I'd worked with was a coach at Seven Oaks Rugby Football Club, and he saw this, and he was so emotional because South Africa had won, but he was in England and said, what can we do? And he said, why don't we bring out a squad to England? I'm like, how are we going to do that? So I started fundraising to get the boys there. He started fundraising, for the boys when they are there. And Seven Oaks Rugby Football Club hosted us, and our boys played a game against the Seven Oaks Juniors, and the entire place was packed. And the boys played amazing rugby and won that game. Then they went to visit Sutton Valance, which is a very upmarket school. Then they went to visit Tonbridge. But the highlight was to play against Brighton College, at Brighton College, watched by Marcus Smith. What a game.
Wow.
We lost just by like 3 points.
Oh.
And it was a tri-fest. And at the end of the game, for Marcus Smith to choose the man of the tournament, being a young man called Sbabale Queens, I was our number 10, was just something that, I can just dream about. And it's the same boy who was man of the tournament in our tournament in 2024. He's also man of the tournament in 2025. So these things enable more people to see that there's talent. And out of that, rugby tournaments here locally have now seen that our boys can compete in those rugby tournaments. But it started by them watching SuperSports cover our boys in the UK.
And talking about that, the teams, the more established rugby schools, the stronger rugby schools around the country that when we think of rugby, we hear about all the time, are now inviting schools from Zandile Mali tournament and the select 15 from the tournament that gets chosen at the end to play at their tournaments. So I know that there's a team off to Noordzeit down in the Western Cape at Paul Roos, and then also at Grey's Festival. So tell us about that, because the more these teams are involved in rugby in South Africa, and not just in the tournament. Obviously, that tournament's the amazing springboard, but it's creating more hype and interest around Eastern Cape schools.
Absolutely. I went to go and speak to Slapchips, who runs the Noordzeit, and said to him, this is what the idea we have. And he said, Lincoln, what's the quality of these boys? I said, I can only show you when they play on SuperSport. And suddenly when they started playing, and then they played in England, he called me and says, you are in our tournament. So that first team, the Zandile Mali 15, will play at the Noordzeit tournament. We're very excited about that. Then we also got invited by Ferna to a Grey PE. So now we're able to put 2 squads because we had more than 1,200 boys. So to be able to pick 46 boys was easy because there is good depth and good talent. And now those boys will be exposed to those tournaments and now yearn to be invited to those tournaments and those schools. And that's how we grow the game. I mean, it's amazing when we were in England to talk to English schoolboys and ask them who are their rugby heroes. Like 90% of the players they mentioned were South African Springboks. That shows how this game in this country has grown. But we're just scratching the surface because you want the broadest and the deepest depth of players from all communities, and Ras's dream will come through.
I think I've had goosebumps this entire episode because we talk so often about the untapped potential of the players in the Eastern Cape, and what you're doing is tapping into that potential, putting them onto a world stage, and just really taking Eastern Cape school rugby to the next level. So anything you want to add just as we wrap up about going forward?
Really to thank SuperSport School, Calvin Watt, for seeing the vision and putting these kids on show. And these kids have responded. Atlas Foundation, based in the UK, who supported us. We put these kids into camps, give them a lot of training at the Nelson Mandela University high performance area, so that when they go to these games, they're prepared psychologically, mentally, and in terms of the sport. And then Standard Bank, who's been our partners with the Lincoln Mali Foundation. But most importantly, the boys. Just the way 1,200 boys in 54 schools across about 7, 8 towns have played the game, really put it on the map. And I just hope that the schools can continue to play beyond the tournament. The tournament is a good feeder, but they've got to play regularly in order for them to improve. And for clubs in those areas to embrace these boys. I played schools rugby and I played for a club. There's always a good link when you're playing for a club and you're playing for a school, so that if the schools are strong, clubs will be strong. Clubs are strong, provinces will be strong. Provinces are strong, the Springboks will be strong.
Well, all I can say at the end of this is thank you for the amazing work you're doing for rugby and for South Africa. It is an amazing story, and I'm so glad that you got to tell it here on Rugby on 216. So thank you for that.
Brilliant.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be wrapping up the show, talking about some of the changes to the laws for the community rugby season, and we'll also play the impossible truth. I can't wait to see the Zandile Mali Select 15 at Noord Suid. We're going to take a quick break. I'll see you in a bit.
Some things you don't choose. They choose you. A name, a history, a legacy that came long before you and will last long after you're gone. It's not just about the game. It's the moments that shape you. The early mornings, the long bus rides, the chants that never fade. The friendships, the rivalries, the feeling of being part of something bigger. It's a belonging. Something you carry with you wherever you go. Because once you're a part of it, you always will be.
In a world where every second counts, will he make it on time? Out here on the streets, anything can happen when the odds are stacked against you. One man finds the will, the drive, the passion to steer his path to destiny. It's a Swift.
Welcome back to Rugby on 216. We have a few minutes left in the show, and last week for the interview, I sat down with Dion van Blommestein from SARU. He runs the community referees in South Africa, and we were talking about the new community laws. And in each show, we're going to have a little segment called Ask the Ref, where in future, you guys are going to ask me some questions, but just while we're getting used to these new laws, we're going to run through some of them, because this is the first one now about this skew line-out throw, right? And the idea now is that if it isn't contested and it's not straight, then we won't blow it. That one you just saw, obviously contested, not straight. This one is going to be the same between Marties and Shimlers. It's not straight. The teams have contested, so that gets blown up. But what people are kind of forgetting is a couple things. If it gets thrown to the front of the lineout, if it gets thrown to the back, and if it gets thrown outside the outside shoulder. So if it's at the front, it must still be straight. If it's at the back, so if it goes over past the 15, must still be straight. And then even if no one contests, if it's outside the outside shoulder, it must still get blown up. So let's have a quick look here at a France Six Nations clip. And this one, it goes straight to the front. And so that should also be blown because you can't really contest. If it's going to the front, it must still be straight. And then in a couple moments, we'll have a look at a grey clip, which I think you were at on the weekend, Split. So just talk us through that moment, because that one, for people who know now, a lot of what people have heard is if you don't contest and it's not straight, it's fine. But that's not fully true, because if it's outside the outside shoulder, it still gets blown.
Yeah, so this one was way outside the outside shoulder, and in commentary as well. It's a look at the body angle of the catcher. You know, Cooksey, if you saw there, the body angle is turned to the outside. You know, he's sort of giving his left shoulder to look at that. You see, he's sort of giving his left shoulder towards the Great College side, and that's a clear indication, you know, that he's catching it outside the shoulder. Although Great College didn't compete, and I wouldn't compete either because they was waiting for that big maul coming in. But that's obviously the ruling there. So, Cooksey, but I was just thinking, you know, while we're doing all this laws, it'll be really nice to get a referee into studio. I mean,
it would be delightful. But I think for me is, you know, I mean, I'll stay for that. If I'm an Oakdale side, I mean, I do find that law frustrating at times because how skew is skewed. So it can be skewed, but not too skewed. Because my thing is, if you don't contest, throw where you want. Where that's my
and I can explain why.
Sorry, I want to butt in here before you start with your explanation. And just by the way, folks, Alex is a decent referee.
Thanks.
The misunderstanding comes in because the law was never particularly well reffed in the first place.
Yeah.
There needs to be a meter space. That's the first thing. Between two sides. And then it needs to go down the middle by the definition of the law. So actually, outside the outside shoulder is already very skewed.
Yeah.
It's very skewed. You know what I'm saying? It's not a little bit skewed. Because theoretically, when the laws was first designed, a throw needs to go down the middle of a line.
100%.
So even on the inside shoulder was skewed. So that gives him an extra 50 centimeters already.
The intention behind the law is not that teams are now trying to throw skew. They are still trying to throw into the line-out. They have to throw into the line-out, so you're not allowed to throw to the 9. You have to throw into the line-out. But the reason there is a limit is because this law is supposed to only be used in the cases where we've thrown into the line-out, it's happened to not be straight, no one's contested, we just play on because stopping would be a waste of time. But if we say, okay, you can start catching it on the outside shoulder and things, teams are then going to want to throw skew, which is not what we want to encourage. This law is just, the intention behind it is, let's stop the game less, but we don't want to change how it's played and how people throw into the line-out. So that's why there is a limit.
You see where people get confused and get angry is when rules are open for interpretation. And that's also why I like it. Why I like there's a reference point.
Yes.
So I can now say, sir, Mr. Referee, I love you. I am not angry at you, but that was a mistake. Because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be able to. So there is a reference point. And too many rules in rugby is open for interpretation by referees. That's a fact. Look at the breakdown. Look how it gets blown. This referee blows at X, this referee blows at Y. I'm a flanker. I'm so confused like a little gecko in a smarty box. I don't know, you know. I don't know where to go because this referee does it this way, but Alex White does it this way. Now, who's right? Over here, good guideline for the referee. Yes. Outside the outside shoulder, whether PT is jumping or PT is not jumping, that is skewed.
Right. To summarize it then, just for teams, keep throwing it straight into the lineouts. If it happens to not be contested and it doesn't go straight, we just...
I just want teams to contest. If you don't contest, then you give them, I think you should fall for the rights like skew. Like, you didn't go out. You waited for them all, so forfeit your rights off getting the call. I can't not compete and still get the call to no.
But think about Urka. He needs to be tested, Cooksey.
Then it was done.
We're going to see Cooks at Kes Jeffy on Saturday getting very excited when they're not competing and winning that decision.
And you know what? In a sense, Cooks is right. In a sense, he is. You know,
you're also right, Sports.
But like I say, that guideline and for me is very important. And I know sitting in the comm box, I need that guideline because we're never abusive to referees, but it's our job to say, no, that was right, or no, that was wrong.
And that's easier to know.
And it's easier to know.
Yes, 100%. Right, all we have left to do, the impossible truth. I got one over you guys last week, but in the first show, obviously, Sput created an impossible truth. So this week, let's see what you guys have. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first. So, since 2023 and last year, there's been quite a few Bok debuts, a lot of debutants, some from Grey College, some from Paul Gym. But in that last 2-year period, Linden has had more Springboks than Affies.
Jeez, okay. That's the first one.
Horace Linden, sorry.
Yeah.
The 2013 Affies rugby side was a special one.
Yes.
They lost only once, and that was against Grey College.
Okay. I need to think now because we've spoken about that Affies side before. And I can't remember if they lost at all in 2013. And then, did they have more or less in the last 2 years? You said?
In the last 2 years.
Gee, I don't even know how many they've had. So this is a tough one this week. I don't know.
We're stepping up a game.
Yeah, you are.
And
this is tough. Seeing the Affies inspiration has come through. I'm gonna say, just because I'm remembering something vaguely about that Affies 2013 side being so stacked that maybe they didn't lose. So the thing that is true is yours.
Oh,
we got to work hard on these.
He's getting sharp. He's getting sharper and sharper.
Just for interest's sake, that 2013 Affies side included Ivan van Zyl, RG Snyman.
Yes, RG Snyman. I remember seeing the photo of him, and that's what
never lost.
Prompted it.
Never lost.
Wow.
The only Affies first team in their history to win every game that they played.
I think that is exactly the fact you've told me many months ago.
Last week we talked about YouTube and replaying games. Go watch that Grey versus Affies game. Affies was a stack side, but it was basically Affies was the Ever for you, and Ever for you that day in a losing cause
got close.
was unbelievable. It basically felt like him taking on the whole SS school side. Or go watch Ever for you clips. So for those who don't know,
wow.
At fullback, I mean, he was a menace. But so Jean Klein, who made his debut for Ireland for the Springboks, is from from London. Okay. And the last Affies Springbok was Nico Jansen van Rensburg in 2021.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's some great facts. I'm learning.
We got to work harder on these cooks.
That's
the way he gets.
That's 2 from 2.
2 from 2 this season.
We
must also start remembering what we tell him because he doesn't know these things on his own. It's stuff we told him. So if we just talk to him less,
I agree.
We'll get him.
That's the plan.
So we're going to go on a media blackout until we do JP Kez's show at JP Kez on Saturday. Okay. We're going to be there on Saturday when JP takes on Kez, and we'll talk all about that in our show next week, Tuesday. Rugby on 216 is every Tuesday at 7, brought to you by Thirsty. We'll see you next week, but for now, bye-bye.